Before we get started, we want to ensure that everyone has full access to our presentation and conversation. So we have interpretation available in Hmong.
Hola, buenas tardes. Vamos a tener interpretación simultánea al español. Si alguien necesita los servicios, vamos a estar aquí.
Nhớ rằng là bên một xài lúa mông thì cho nên là từ xã tàu xài lúa mông là cho nên lọt trong từ lúa trong nó bên một này ở trong.
Thank you. We also have sign language available for anyone that needs it down in the front over here. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for being here. My name is Cindy Green. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Strategy and Innovation. I am grateful that you all came out tonight and are here to learn more about our Building for the Future plan. We are excited to get your input this evening and definitely hear your thoughts on our plan so far. So thank you again for taking time out of your evening. I hope you had a chance to enjoy the amazing dinner that was provided for you. This was cooked from our food and nutrition department. This is similar to what students access every day in our schools. So we thought it was important to give you a little taste of what the students experience with some of our new menu items. Did anyone get a chance to eat? Was it good? All right. Are you full? If not, we got more, but you can't bring it in here. Okay. All right. Well, I am going to start by showing a video from our superintendent, Dr. Joe Gothard, and we will hear from him first, and then I will get us going for the evening.
Hello, I'm Joe Gothard, Superintendent of the Madison Metropolitan School District. Thank you for joining us at our Building for the Future community input sessions. Madison is growing faster than anyone could have imagined. By 2050, more than 100,000 new people are expected to call Madison home. And right now, the City of Madison has plans for approximately 15,000 new housing units, many of which are already under construction or in development. This is amazing growth, and it's something that Madison has experienced before. Between 1970 and 2020, our population grew from approximately 170,000 to 270,000 people. The difference? We're seeing 50 years of growth packed within 25 years. That rapid growth is going to have an impact on MMSD, and our responsibility is to plan proactively. We want to ensure that our schools have the capacity, resources, and programming to provide strong educational experiences for all students. And you are an important part of this work. Our community's voice, your voice matters. We want to hear your input and your ideas. Thank you again for being here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you giving your time to help strengthen MMSD as a destination school district.
Okay, just kidding. Hold on. Don't you love this in-the-moment error? Hold on while we get the slide changed. While we're working on getting the slide changed, I also want to acknowledge if we have any elected officials in the audience tonight, thank you in advance for being here, and thank you for all of the work that you do. All right, perfect. Thank you. So Building for the Future, as Dr. Gothard just indicated, we have a plan about thinking about MMSD becoming a destination school district. While tonight we're going to focus mostly on an attendance and boundary review, we are also thinking about Building for the Future as it relates to an enrollment strategy. How can we ensure current students and families that live in the MMSD attendance areas and new families that join the Madison area choose MMSD as their destination district of choice? We are also thinking about long-range facility planning and continuing to ensure our facilities are set up for 21st century learning and to accommodate all of the students and families that are choosing MMSD. So it really has 3 parts to our plan. And as Dr. Gothard mentioned, the City of Madison has an expectation that in the next really 4 years now that we will have 15,000 housing units within the city. Those 15,000 housing units will probably come with students and families, so we want to ensure our schools are proactively set up for this growth. He also mentioned that we have growth happening within the city by 2050. Really, 24 years from now, we are expected to see 100,000 new neighbors. And so if we are receiving 100,000 new neighbors, we want to really think about the future for MMSD. Not just about tomorrow, but 10, 20 years from now. We want to ensure that we are creating the types of schools and programs that our families are interested in. We want to ensure families are coming to MMSD and choosing us, because there's lots of options these days when it comes to public education. So what is this Building for the Future plan? What are we trying to do? As I just mentioned, we're trying to assess our current school attendance areas and our district boundaries. We have schools that have students where they're almost over capacity, and we have some other schools where there's lots of space available. We want to think about what that might mean for more balanced. We want to look at 2 plots of land that we own on the far east side and the far west side. Might those eventually become schools and school attendance areas for students and families? A lot of the growth that was mentioned is happening on the outskirts of our attendance areas, and so we want to think about where those plots of land might need to be new school areas. We also want to look at our current school programming and options. For example, we have 21 dual language immersion sites at our schools that offer Spanish dual language immersion. We have 2 sites that offer Hmong bilingual programming as well. We want to hear from students and families if this is meeting our needs. We also look to have full day 4K in every one of our elementary buildings. Free full day 4K in every one of our elementary buildings. In order to make that happen, we need to create more space in some of our schools to allow for full day 4K in our buildings. Another thing that we're thinking about that we want to evaluate and learn from. And last, and probably most important, we want to understand what families want for their child's educational experience. That is really what tonight is about. You will have an opportunity to engage in an interactive live survey throughout tonight that you will provide your input to us and tell us what you think as we go through the presentation. That is really important to us. We will also stay 15 minutes after the presentation to allow for Q&A that was not addressed or was not answered during our presentation. So really thinking about this last bullet of what is it that students and families want for their educational experiences, and how might we think about that with this plan for Building for the Future. So in addition to that, part of our work for Building for the Future is creating guiding principles. There was a survey that we put out in the fall, right when school opened, and from that survey, we heard from families in terms of what was most important to them for this work. We also know that we have to think about decision making when it comes down to that time. That is not tonight, it is not tonight. It is far down the road. But when it comes to that decision-making time, we have to start thinking about these different guiding principles that sometimes pull against each other. So we want to think about things like utilization. Are we balancing utilization across our schools? How are we thinking about the use of all of our school buildings? How are we thinking about the resources that are spread across all of our school buildings? Demographics. How can we maintain balanced demographics and integration to the greatest extent possible? How can we think about transportation and neighborhood schools? We heard from students and families that sometimes they're on a bus for longer than they would like. Are there ways for us to create new school attendance areas that reduce the amount of time on transportation? Are there ways to create more access to walkability in more neighborhood schools? That's some of the things we want to think about. And then we want to minimize impact. How can we make the greatest changes for the future while also trying to minimize impact to the smallest number of people possible? We know that change is going to happen, but we want to be really thoughtful about who is impacted and how many individuals are impacted while trying to make the greatest change. And then last, I mentioned earlier, programming. Programming is really important. What are the offerings that we want to have here in MMSD that will meet students and families' needs? So what is tonight about? Tonight is about the first of many opportunities to hear and from you and to learn about the work that we are doing as it relates to building for the future. It will not be the last time to provide input. It's an opportunity for us to hear your perspective so that we can continue to build better drafts based on community input. What tonight is not about, it is not where we are going to share something that is close to final or a final draft scenario. Tonight is not about decision making. At the end of the presentation, I'll share with you our timeline, but tonight is the first of many opportunities for you to learn about the work and for us to hear from you. Has anyone ever had to go through the writing process where you start with generating ideas, a graphic organizer? I see Kate right there. Kate, yep, you got me. That's what tonight is. Tonight we're at the graphic organizer phase. We haven't even done our first draft of our paper. We've got some big ideas, we've got some things that we're thinking about, and we want to hear from the community, what do you like about these ideas? And it's as important for us to hear what you don't like about these ideas. So we're in the draft phase. All right, so we've been working with a firm for the last, since July, however many months that is, a while now, called MGT. And MGT has been our partners in this work. They've been our thought partners. They've helped collect a ton of data for us. And so MGT is here with me tonight and with all of us tonight to be able to go into detail around some of this work. So I am going to call up my friend Monica, and Monica from MGT is going to walk you through the next portion. Marcy from MGT is here as well, and she will be doing part of the presentation. So I will be back at the end. Thank you in advance for being here, and thank you for your input.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gamchirai Monica Farirai, and I'm joined with my partner, Marcy Horner. We are part of MGT. MGT is a nationally recognized and locally focused organization. So what we do at MGT is that we are a consulting firm that partners with various entities such as local governments or such as school district. And what we do is we provide support in giving data-driven, long-term decision planning information that can be digestible for the community and would be digestible for the decision makers in your community as well. Just in collective total, we have well over 100 years of demographic analysis experience. We have multiple people working on these demographic forecasts and analyses. And on top of that, we've also done over 150 of these boundary reviews and redistricting projects, such as the one that we have today. So for this project with your school district, our role is going to be serving as a neutral technical partner. So what we'll do is we analyze the environmental trends, analyze enrollment trends, we look at housing growth, we look at facility utilization, and then we start taking those informations and those analyses into information that can help draft clear solutions for your district moving forward. Now it's very important that we do remember, it's already been said, but we'll say it many times as well throughout this presentation, that no decisions have been made yet. So for us, for our company, those decisions are things that we help generate with our data insights, but ultimately it's going to be on the district to go ahead and finalize all the final solutions that we come up with. So our main responsibility is to provide you with the data, the analysis, as well as the structured process for the community engagement and for the decision makers so that they can help make informed and transparent conversations about your future. And now I'll pass this on to my partner, Marcy, who will give you the information about your district overall and the plans.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here and so happy to see you all. Glad you came out to discuss this important work. We are going to go over a lot of numbers and a lot of data today. I'm going to talk to you about the data that goes into creating a forecast. So I'm going to show you birth rates. I'm going to show you, again, a lot of data and a lot of maps. We're going to go through that, and then we're going to look at the forecast, and then we're going to look together at some potential options for scenarios. And then we're going to go ahead and do a poll, a live poll, so that you can be a part of answering questions. I want to first be very transparent about how a forecast is created. This forecast is created with student data. So we are going to gather the student data. We actually already did. We gathered the student data from the district, and we are going to apply factors to that data to create a forecast. I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those about each of those factors, but this image really is a look under the hood about how we create a forecast. Apply the factors to the student data and determine and look and see what those projections tell us about the future. So I'll go into each of these factors quickly, but I'm going to talk to you first about student data analysis. So we use Geographic Information System, or GIS. This allows us to think spatially. We can spatially analyze the student data because we geocode the students, meaning we take the addresses of all of the students and we put those on a map. We're able to look at attendance areas. We're able to look at the residential development and understand how that relates to the specific area that students live or the area that a school is in. We divide the district into study areas, small neighborhood-sized study areas, and we can do that geographically. That way we're looking holistically at district-wide data, but we're also able to apply these factors at a more micro level, down to a neighborhood level. So that's really beneficial for us to be able to do that and to provide really great results. Here's an image after we've geocoded the students. This is just a heat map because we don't show the student dots, but this does allow you to see where the dense population and the less dense or sparse population is in relation to the district boundaries. You can see the district boundaries outlined there in black. The yellow is where the student population is most dense, and the more bluer areas are where it's sparse. After we have had this analysis of the geocoded students, we look and see what that looks like within the attendance areas. So this is an image of the elementary attendance areas. On the first column on the left lists all of the elementary attendance areas. So we kind of have to separate school from attendance area, just so you are aware, and I'm going to explain how that works. So we're going to read across the rows. These are the students that live within that attendance area. Okay, so the first school up there is Anana Elementary, and you can see that in Anana, there's 414 students that live within that attendance area. I know that's really small writing, so it might be really hard to see, but essentially what we're able to do is see where those 414 students attend. Are they going to the school of assignment, or are they going to other schools? This really allows districts to either ask questions about or to understand where their students are going, and potentially that could be because of a program at a school. It might be related to policy. They might be going there because they choose to, or they might be going there because they're assigned to attend that school based on policy. As you read across the rows, you see where those students are enrolled. So they live in that row, in the school, in that row. So Anana, as you read down the row, I think it's 366 students that live in those boundaries that attend Anana. As you go across, you can see that 5 are enrolled at Chavez, 5 at Crestwood, and so on and so forth. So again, this gives you a lot of good information. The last 2 columns over there are non-boundary schools. So students are enrolled there, but their boundary is a different school. So if you want to read and really dive into the enrollment, you read down the columns. So as you read down the column, we'll just stick with Anana in our example, is you can see down at the very bottom, their total enrollment, when we got their student data in early October, was 449. Now 16 of those students are coming into MMSD from outside of the district. Those are inter-district transfers is what I call them. And the resident population, the total resident students that live within the district boundaries are 433. We already know that 366 live in that attendance area, so as you read down the column, you see where the other students, what attendance areas the other students are living in. Again, this is just part of the analysis that we do when we get the student data and look at it in the lens of the current attendance areas. The next slide is a utilization analysis, and again, we're looking at the capacities of the schools. We're looking at the resident population. This is really important. Knowing where the students live and knowing the resident population is really the foundation for forecasting and then boundary work or redistricting. But also understanding what the current enrollment is also very important, because the boundaries are an assignment. That's where schools, if you're moving to an area, you have an assignment of what school you attend, but the enrollment is often, like I said, program or policy, or depending if it could be a choice, some sort of transfer. So the enrollment utilization is often different from the resident utilization, but it's also really important to have the ability for those resident students to be able to go and have room in their assigned school. Columns to the further to the right are the resident student transfers. Those are the students that are living within MMSD boundaries but transferring to an MMSD, in or out of an MMSD school. And then the columns on the far right are the inter-district transfers, so students that are coming in from outside the district. That was the slide just before was the elementary. This is taking a look at the middle school and the high school. Didn't want to leave those out as well. So I'm going to go past, I think this information is all available. Want to talk today now about the forecast factors. The first factor is the birth factor. How is the birth factor calculated? We look at the birth counts by zip code. So we're not looking at a national trend, we're diving down into the birth counts in your area. That is what is represented by the tall, dark blue lines. Those are the birth counts in your area. You can see down at the bottom, the BY and the SY. BY is birth year, SY is school year. So when we look at this, we're looking at kindergarten students and births 5 years previous, okay? Right in the middle, you see that pink, the shorter pink bar. That is the current kindergarten cohort for the school year 25-26 as of the student, when we received the student data in early October. So you can see that there is a resident kindergarten cohort of 1,755. Those bars in gray that are to the left of that, that is the historic student cohort count, resident student cohort numbers. The lighter blue to the right, those are projected kindergarten cohorts for the resident. Now, you can see that by the birth counts that there is some declining birth rates. This is happening all over the country. Our population, if you haven't heard this already, our population is decreasing. Birth rates all over the country are decreasing. So you can see that here, that there is a decrease in the number of children being born in just this historical data alone. The solid line that's right through the middle, this is the percentage of kindergarten students to births 5 years previous. I think this is important. We see that there is currently the district has 51% of the births 5 years previous. And that number is pretty steady from historical, and honestly right now we're projecting that to be very similar in the future. This is also an opportunity that the district can increase that number, and Ms. Green just spoke about providing 4K in all of the schools, and I have seen that kindergarten numbers actually start increasing as those 4K students are joining the district earlier. So it's important to understand that as of right now, we are forecasting these kindergarten numbers based on the trend that we have right now, and that trend can increase, and that's the beauty of collecting data, recent data, and then continuing to monitor. The next factor is mobility. I know this is a lot of numbers. I'm gonna explain this and help you understand what this is. You might understand cohort survival rate a little bit better. This is modified to be geographical. These students are, again, they're geocoded within their resident attendance area at the elementary school level. That way we can say, well, whatever is happening in the district in the Olson Elementary School District may not be the same thing happening in the district in the Schenck Elementary School District. We're able to look at what is actually happening in that geographic area. So this is a result of 4 years of student data geocoded, 3 years of change, and it allows us to once again see the number of students as they progress from one grade level to the next. So it's not just progressing the grade level, it's looking at what is happening within that attendance area. This allows us to understand, sometimes we recognize where there are neighborhoods that are aging out or neighborhoods that are regenerating. It might show us where there is a high turnover in a certain area. And whatever has been happening in the average 4 years, we perpetuate that in the forecast. Couple things to point out, again, this is attendance area, not school, so that's different. So this is, again, is by attendance area. The remaining elementary schools is on the next slide, so I'll get to that. I just want to give you a chance to see this. And the numbers across the top are K to 1, 1 to 2, and so forth. So as you can see in Anana, there is a 1.04 mobility factor. In other words, if there were 100 kindergarten students, on average over the 4 years of student data, the district actually has a gain of 4%. And so that is assumed to continue, and that's how that is applied in the forecast. So the blue is positive numbers, and or numbers above 1, and the yellow are numbers below 1% or 100%. So again, this allows you to see areas that might be regenerating. I do want to say that this is not inclusive of any new housing. This is only existing housing. So this is not the slide that we're talking about growth. This is the slide to say what's happening in our district in the homes that are, existing. You can see on the blue some of these areas, especially over on the far right. There's a great, clearly a great retention in 12th grade or credit or a credit that the district is able to keep those 11th to 12th grade students in the district. A lot of times I see those numbers much lower, showing early graduation or dropouts. And so this is showing a really positive light on the district. So a couple of areas, if you read across the rows, you can see that a lot of those, you can see that are blue right across the rows, and that is areas that would be higher inward mobility. If you see some that are more yellow, those are areas that have a higher outward mobility. You can also look at it, and I'll go ahead and progress to the next slide so you can see the rest of the elementary schools. Sorry I couldn't fit them all on one page, but they would be really small. None of us would be able to read those tiny numbers. You can also sometimes see trends down the grade levels as well. Oftentimes, it's not uncommon to see that jump in 8 to 9, kids coming back into 9th grade from either a private setting or homeschool or other options that they have. In this district, we can also see that there's some slight dips in the 6th grade. So that's an opportunity, once again, for the district to have enticing programs for middle school. But this, again, really great student data. It comes directly from the district's student data so that we can understand what has happened and what will continue to happen. The third factor is directly related to residential growth. This is the student yield factor. This is the number of students that are coming from the new housing developments. So we looked at housing developments that were built over the last 10 years. Again, we have those geocoded students, and we're able to compare those and see what can we expect from new housing development, because we can see what has taken place. So the first column that you see on the left, after the grade configurations, says single family detached. The numbers at the bottom in bold is the total K through 12, so that's what I'm going to focus on. So in the student yield factor for single family detached is 0.2, essentially 0.203. So what does that mean? That means that the district can anticipate gaining 20 students for every 100 new single family detached homes built. That is 20 students across the grade span of K through 12, so across 13 grade spans. The column to the right of that is single family attached, and that number drops down to 0.125. So 12 to 13 students are coming from single family attached for every 100 homes built. Apartments drops drastically to 0.012, one student for every 100 apartments. Not a lot of students are coming from apartments into the district. And then the far right column is the affordable housing, and that is the highest student yield factor of 0.385. So 38, 39 students are coming into the district from that housing type. These student yield factors are, again, directly applied to where we see residential development. So here's a map, and the district is large. These polygons are small. I apologize. The next slide is going to kind of try to zoom in a little bit so you can see these a little bit better, but I wanted to just point this out. Again, we're tracking these residential developments in a spatial way, looking at them against the attendance areas, where they're located, where it is going to affect students and families in the community and the district. 120 projects are identified as active and planned. We worked with the planners in the area to really dive into what their information had. And this is as of December 1st. So we had to call a snapshot date so that we could then move forward with the data. So you might say, wait, there's not something that was just approved that is not on here. That's correct. This was as of December 1st. So over 12,000 housing units are included in the forecast. 24% of those are in the Franklin and Randall elementary attendance areas. Those attendance areas are the same. And then 81% of the units are apartments. And you just saw in the previous slide that apartments really have the lowest student yield factor. So that's important to be aware. Here are those three maps trying to get you just a little bit better visual of where those developments are within each of the a little bit to the west, a little bit to the center, a little bit to the east. So hopefully you can see those. And this material is also available on the district website, or will be if it's not yet. Here's a bar graph showing the units in the housing developments. So the bars go up to the units. The colors are showing the different housing types. And then down below, you can see, if you're reading it sideways, you can see what elementary attendance area those housing units are in, and then also what middle school those housing areas are in. So you can look at that and see how those school attendance areas may be affected. But again, you see that the pink is where you're seeing apartments. Those are the lowest student yield factor, and the dark blue is the affordable housing where you see the highest student yield factor. All right, I love that you're digesting this. I can see it. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next slide here. So we've gathered all the data, and we're going to take a look now at the district forecast. First, what I want to do is I want to show you the effect, and I'm hoping that my animation works for all three. So the first factor is how the mobility, again, is applied, or how it impacts the forecast, and that is as the grade level progresses, you're going to see how that mobility affects the forecast. The next one is the housing projects. That's going to affect, again, all of the grades, all K through 12 grade levels, because that's what we're identifying when we're establishing those student yield factors. And then the impact from the birth rates. Now, a lot of times people, and even I say it, this really impacts our next year's kindergarten and our future year's kindergarten, but it's not just that, and I think that's really important to note. It's not just how we're impacting the students that we're getting for kindergarten. It's kindergarten next year, but the year after that it's kindergarten and first. The year after that it's kindergarten, first, second, third. So by this time you see the 5-year forecast, a lot of those early grades are really impacted from students that we may not have even seen in the district yet. So this is, again, why understanding how bringing students in and either increasing that percentage that you're getting, or changes in the birth rates could affect future young grade years, and then eventually as those grades matriculate to the older grade levels. So I'll give you a chance now to take a look at these numbers, and I'll explain a little bit about this. So what you're seeing right now is just the resident population. So the numbers on the bottom are the totals. You have the first three columns are the historic resident population numbers. Then the light blue column, which is the current year, and you can see at the top, current and 2025. And then the 5 years after that are the 5 years in the forecast. So these first four column numbers, if you look down at the light blue number, 24,251 4K through 12th grade students lived in the district as of early October. The conditional formatting that you see on this slide, the blues and the pinks or purples, I guess it's pink here, and that is just a conditional formatting that we put on using, again, in Excel to show the highs and the lows. So the darker blue is the larger numbers, and the pink or the darker pink are the lower numbers. I do this sometimes because it really helps you identify patterns, and that is what you can see here, that those higher numbers are those 12th grade. You're maintaining and keeping 12th grade students. You see lower numbers coming on the far right. Those are coming in because of a result of lower birth rates, but also you can see some in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade where you can see those lower numbers, and then coming back in 9th grade. Again, this is a wonderful opportunity. The district has this data, understands that this is happening, and can reach out or do some outreach for those grades. And so another great opportunity for the district to focus on those grade levels. This image here shows the entirety of the district, including the non-resident students. And so you can see here a slight decline from the historic, and then a slight decline perpetuating through to the 5-year forecast as well. Again, a result of lower birth rates coming into the district. But again, really, really great information. I mentioned way back when I first started this presentation that we divided the district into these small study areas so that we could really look at a micro level of what is happening within these neighborhoods, and this represents that. So if you can see the green and the dark green, this is a net year change, a 5-year net year change. 5-year net change. So these green numbers are areas that we can see that there's going to be growth, whether that's growth because of new residential development, growth because of inward mobility, or a combination. The red and orange are showing areas of decline. Again, this could be because of the mobility is high in outward mobility, effects of birth rates and whatnot. But it's a really great tool that we can use as opposed to looking at just enrollment numbers and just the numbers. We're able to, again, understand what it is geographically. And so that's a really great benefit. So this chart here is showing a couple of things. The dark blue background, those are the capacities that we have for the schools, the elementary schools. And within those capacity numbers, you can see 3 bars. The gray is showing the current resident population of the school. The next bar, which is more pink, is showing what the forecast is for 2030, and then the darker is showing the forecast for 2035. Now, we're showing you this here because we know that we want to plan for the future. We know we want to plan for 2035. We also know that, as we talked about with birth trends, those babies aren't born yet. We also know that we don't know what housing development will come in those latter part of the forecast years, years like 6 through 10, but this is what we have for the current trend. So a couple things to note, that there are vacancies in some schools. There are also some schools that don't have room for the resident population in that attendance area. The rest of the schools are on the next slide. I want to make sure you can find your school. I'll give you a second. And here's the remainder. I do want to just point out, I don't think I mentioned it before, that there are 3 attendance areas that are the same. They have a K2 and 3-5 school. So they have the exact same attendance area. And you can see, I think this first one, I'm looking at Midvale, Lincoln. It is the same attendance area. Those capacities are combined and the resident population is combined because it's the exact same attendance area. So I just wanted to make sure to point that out in case you were looking for Lincoln in the L's. Again, you see places where there is capacity, and you can see places where there is less capacity or overpopulation. So this is a really great opportunity to be able to balance utilization and understand where students live. It's really important when we look at redistricting to understand and use resident-based population and not just enrolled. Enrollment-based is often determined by programs or policies or a preference that could change in the next year. So understanding and utilizing the resident population is really important. Oh, as I just said. Going on to the next slide, we're just going to, Cindy had already mentioned the guiding principles, so I'll just go through again. She mentioned this, but it's important to know that these guiding principles do tug and pull against one another. They often don't align up. If you are wanting to fully balance utilization, you're going to impact more students. If you want to impact fewer students, you might not have the opportunity to really balance utilization. So these guiding principles are used as a tool for consensus with not just the committee working together to create scenarios, but also the board to approve scenarios and the community to understand what was the driving factor and what the principles really were. And here's some listed out as well. I think, again, we've already talked about this, and I think we have that information on other slides or other presentations. So we'll go on to the current attendance areas, and also there's a really great video on the district website that talks about your current attendance areas, and there's also an interactive map that you can go to that site and look and dive in and see where your attendance area is, because you may not feel any effects of your current boundaries, but somebody else might be, and so it's important to understand that there are complexities within the district boundaries, and if you're not affected by it, other people may be. And so sometimes that is looking at it in that lens, and I'm going to point a couple of those out. And as we look at some possible scenarios, I'll point some others out. But just listing a couple, and again, this is all listed and drawn out in a video on the website. So extension areas, those are areas that are becoming part of the MMSD in the future. You have the K2, 3-5 attendance areas that have those 2 different schools. There are optional areas of the district where students or families can choose which school they go to as opposed to being assigned a specific school. And sometimes that is not a school that is closest to them. There are non-contiguous boundaries. These are boundaries that are not touching, are boundaries that in the middle of a school attendance area is a different school attendance area. So that's very complex. There are also island zones, which is very similar, but island zones are more of like a small island that is separated from the main area. Feeder pattern alignment is also something that we like to consider because keeping kids with kids that they know and have gone to school with is important. And then also the natural boundary of the district. There are these gray in the center. These are holes in the district that are actually belong to another district. So that's very interesting and complex. Now, we're going to show you some draft, bright red, these are draft. These are scenario options by region. Now, we've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. These are not predetermined. They're not being voted upon. These are, what we really want to do is we really want to show you some ideas, and then we want to get your feedback. And you're going to have an opportunity both tonight, and if you have, if you decide to later using our other survey, you are able to do that as well. So we really do want to hear from you and see what you think about these options. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the first option. And again, these are by regions because your district is large, and I understand that you might be from a specific region, so please be patient as we walk through. So I want to orient you to what you see on the slides, and then we'll talk through this. So there's two maps here. The one on the left is showing the current boundaries of the elementary schools. In this area, we're looking at the far west region. The one on the right is the draft scenario boundary. These are changes that might happen, they might not happen. These are options to help utilize the guiding principles to create scenarios that are hopefully better for students and families in the future. Each attendance area has a unique color to help you try to identify those attendance areas. I've been looking at these maps since July. I know these attendance areas very well. Not everybody looks at these maps regularly, and so you may not even know the boundaries of your attendance area, or you may be very familiar with the boundaries of your attendance area. But this hopefully will help you understand where those lines are drawn. We have a legend on the left to help you, and then also some call-outs here. So let me see if I can call out. Okay, all right, so some call-outs here. This area is showing you a non-contiguous area. So I told you there was some complexities, and non-contiguous boundaries are a complexity of your district. Now you may not be affected by this, but others are within this district. So you can see all of the green, right here, this color green is Stevens. And I just want to point out that what a non-contiguous boundary could look like. So all of those are portions of that elementary attendance area. So non-contiguous boundaries, again, are something that we were looking to identify. Also areas that might not be assigned to a neighborhood school. And then this area right here is one of those optional areas that I was telling you about. These students are able to have the option to go to either Stevens or Crestwood. Okay, so this is, again, could be a lot of things that can be corrected or adjusted based on those guiding principles. The scenario on the right, again, hopefully, if you're taking pictures, you see there's a draft above, draft in the middle. We're really wanting to make sure that you understand that this is indeed a draft of what potentially could happen if we're trying to align some boundaries with using the guiding principles. So in this area, we're working to, again, align some of these non-contiguous boundaries to become neighborhood schools. Over here, you're seeing it written out how we're changing in this scenario, change areas, like you see how they're labeled out in these. Q, T, S, R rezones non-contiguous areas of Stevens to neighborhood schools. Change areas O rezones non-contiguous areas to Olson and Nana. So you can kind of see the pattern that we're getting to. We're working to make some good, what we assume are good changes, and we want to hear from you to see if you also think they're good changes. This also eliminates this allied community and allows them to be closer to a neighborhood school. And other areas are rezoned to help balance utilization. We are going to show you, and I think it's the next slide. I do, in this map, in this map, you don't see the island zone that Chavez has, and so I want to go on to the next map, and I want to show that to you before I show you all of the utilization numbers. So this map is just a larger map, and really the intention of this map is to show you that Chavez right here has this island zone right here, and that is the closest school, which is Leopold, but they're assigned to Chavez. So I wanted to make sure that we were able to point that out, because when we had the smaller maps, we weren't able to get that because it's more east-west. This next slide here is showing you, so let me orient you to this. On the table on the left is the current boundaries. In the current boundaries, we have their utilization. So the 2025 utilization, that's this year, based on the capacity. Now these do have some adjusted capacities. They're starred up here because there are some referendum schools that will have updated capacities. So these are the utilization numbers for 2025, the projected utilization numbers for 2030, and projected utilization for 2035. Again, we're doing our best to plan for the future, knowing that the future is ever-changing. The numbers are conditionally formatted. I don't know about you, but sometimes numbers just, I can't identify the numbers as easily, but these color formatting shows you what those are representing. Essentially, the red is under 65%, and the darker blue is above 95%. The numbers, the table on the right is showing you the draft scenario. We're just focusing on the schools in those maps. I will show you at the end all of the draft scenarios together. I mean, all of the utilization numbers together. So if you're saying, where is that school? You'll see it eventually. So again, how are we balancing out the numbers? And does it create something that is unwanted? And so this is a really good example of, here's a high utilization that has been reduced here for the future. Now it does, again, create some areas of underutilization or areas that we haven't touched yet. Because again, we're not done. We're wanting more work definitely needs to be done and continue to happen. And we want to do that with your help. In that scenario, and I'm so sorry I didn't point it out, but in that scenario, in the Olson attendance area, there was a star on the map, and that was showing the location of a potential future school site. And so we really wanted to be able to show what it would look like and what that attendance area was affecting and how that might, how the capacities, so you see Olson, that school might be able to alleviate some capacity pressures on the far west side of the district. So, wanted to make sure I pointed that out. So again, this is the far west region. I'm going to go ahead and go through the others. Now that I've oriented you, it might be a little bit quicker. And I know you might say, but I didn't see my home. I couldn't look at it fast enough. These presentations are going to be on the website, and you're also going to be able to access an interactive map, so you can really drive and drill down into where you live and what your all of the things that will be associated with your area. So that.
Pause when you get to the Follette one, since you're in the Follette attendance area.
Yes, will you remind me what the elementary schools are?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
You will. Okay, absolutely. Thank you for the suggestion. Okay, so near west region here. This is the area where we're actually seeing all three of the K2, 3, 5 schools. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Here again is that Chavez Island Zone. You see the non-contiguous areas here. So there's some adjustments. This shows minor adjustments being made, but we really do want to hear how you feel if you live in the Chavez Zone. And I know you're not from this area, but you know what? Maybe somebody has come to this one. So we want to point it out and have that opportunity. So again, this is, let me go ahead to the next slide and show you what that does with that draft, being able to see those numbers of utilization. And again, those schools, you see them all together because they share the same attendance area. So Franklin and Randall, Lapham and Marquette, and Middleville and Lincoln, I know they're individual schools, but they have that same attendance area. All right, I'm going to go ahead to the next slide. So this is the North region. We have some non-contiguous boundaries again, island zones, some transportation, some imbalances in utilization. And so this is, again, places that could be rezoned to make contiguous attendance areas, could help with transportation. Also, this is an area that has some feeders. In other words, middle school, so an elementary school, that half of the students go to one school and half go to another, which you might say that's not that bad, half and half, but maybe it's not half and half. It might be a small percentage, and we really want to keep track of that and make sure that that small feeders are corrected, if possible. Or small splits, I should say, small splits. And here is those, this is reducing the population, also pointing out that the reduction of the population at Lakeview was intentional, creating capacity for incoming transfer students that are in the Hmong bilingual program. And it does increase the capacity, let's see, well, planned capacity increases at Gompers. It will help relieve projected utilization pressures. Okay, moving on. All right. This is a map because in a minute we're going to talk about a map that includes Lorryman Carry. And I just wanted to make sure that you were able to see the Lorryman Carry because it is non-contiguous, and again, because it is so wide, it was hard to get on one map. So you're going to see in the future map these being reassigned, and I wanted to make sure that you saw the whole attendance area in its entirety. This is where we're, okay, perfect. All right, so this is part of that. So let's go on to this next one. Here we see, this is, now the district has asked us to create a potential scenario where there is a new school, Sprecher. We're also going to show you without Sprecher, okay? We're going to show you these two options. So, change areas B and F over here are rezoned to the potential Sprecher attendance area to balance utilization, because we've got some high utilization over here. There's change areas that are rezoned for these non-contiguous areas that are currently part of Loriman-Cary, allowing them to be closer to their neighborhood schools. And then there's also another minor change right here that allows balanced utilization and transportation purposes. I'm going to give you a chance to sit in that for a minute while you look at that area. And again, this is not determined. It is, we want to have your feedback on this. I'm going to, okay. All right, great. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to the utilization numbers slide so you have a chance to see those. And again, you see the high, oops, sorry, my bad. See those higher numbers here with Kennedy and Schenck and the relief that Sprecher provides. You can see on that table on the right.
Sorry, can you clarify? So that first map was with an additional school, with a new building?
Correct, and I'll just point out one more time.
Okay.
This pink here, thank you for the clarifying question. This pink is the potential new attendance area for Sprecher, and this is the potential future school site.
Got it.
Okay, so it would affect this area of Kennedy and this area of Elvium and potential other areas, but this is, again, an option that we want to hear your feedback on. I'm going to go ahead and go to that next slide again in case you didn't have a chance to really look at those numbers. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on. This is an option area, the same area, showing what it may look like without the addition of Sprecher Elementary Attendance Area. And you can see that there still needs to be change made because of the overutilization and the growth in that area. And all of that population would potentially have to move to those schools to the west where there's room. And so it may affect more students and more areas, as you see, without the addition of the new school. So again, this is potentially what could happen with a balancing utilization without the addition of a new school. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go on. And again, this isn't the last time you can see these slides. They'll be available. Here you can see how that would balance out. All right. All right, I promised you that you can see them all together. So this is all of the attendance areas. So these first three colored, this is the current. So you can see 25, 30, and 35. And then these last three columns are your scenarios. And again, these are just conditionally formatted to help draw your eyes to these breakdowns. And also, we do have that. This is the one, let me just clarify, this is with the addition of Sprecher. Okay, let me go ahead and move on and see where we are in this. So I showed you previous image that looked similar to this with the current boundaries. This is an image of the draft boundaries that I just showed you. And you can see here, all of the resident population is fitting within the capacities that we have for them. And that's really what I'm wanting to point out in this slide, is showing the intention was was among the other guiding principles was also to look at a lens with balancing utilization. And here's the remaining schools. All right. So, what to expect next? Again, this is our boundary review framework. So again, ultimately, we want to come together and create a final boundary recommendation. That's not going to happen until next school year, the February 2027. What do we do for that? Well, again, it's data driven. We are looking at the forecast. We're creating factors. We're modeling using our software does enrollment and resident population modeling. We integrate the forecast into that so we can look ahead at how the effect those changes are going to make. A change might be effective right now, but then when you look at a future year, it no longer works. And so there's a lot that goes into that. We're bringing this to you because and the guiding principle is to be collaborative. We're also trying to be, we are being very transparent, offering, the district has an amazing website with a lot of good information on it. This is an iterative process. I think you've heard this before. We're coming back over and over. We've already worked since July on what could possibly be, and we're going to come back and work together more as we receive and analyze your feedback on what that is going to look like. And really do want to be very informative so that you understand what is happening, understand the needs and the potentials of those outcomes.
So that is the end of our session. We're a few minutes over, so thank you all for staying a few extra minutes. A reminder that the poll to answer that question, we'll have stuff up on our website. We appreciate it. Tell your friends. We got 14 more sessions coming. Tell your neighbors, tell some other community friends to please come out because your voice matters, and we want to ensure we're hearing from as many people as possible before we make our next draft scenario. So thank you again and have a wonderful evening.